I would now like to highlight the importance of memory training in ancient India. It was a key aspect of learning, and without it, you could not be a good student. There is no way you could have got into Nalanda or any of the famous universities of the time if you didn't have a good memory. So, memory was a very important attribute. Today, we tend to be very dismissive about memory and we associate it with rote learning. But I think we are doing wrong there. There is actually a superior learning curve when memory is enhanced. This was very well understood by our gurus. It helps to join the dots. I Ching has actually written, I Ching was a Chinese student who studied in India, and he has written about the extraordinary memory and intellectual capacity of the Brahmanas. There is also the famous doctoral research carried out by James Hartzell in recent times, in which he found a marked cognitive improvement in the brains of those who did Sanskrit chanting. So, the Sanskrit effect, as it is called. The the oral tradition of the Vedas are that the mantras are chanted in 11 different ways. So it was understood that human memory is not linear. Okay, so you had to learn in different ways in order to remember something very well throughout your life. So there were different ways of chanting and learning. For example, they for the Vedas, they have the Samhita Patha, the Pada Patha, the Krama Patha, and so on, and which ultimately concludes in the Ghana Patha. That helped the students to develop formidable memories. It was not all dry education in India. Storytelling was used very effectively. After all, India is a land of, is a civilization that has understood the power of storytelling. So, whether we look at the Upanishads or the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Puranas, so much is conveyed via stories. So, the stories were also conveyed via songs, dances, dramas, puppet shows. All of them use stories as a means of education. So apart from the education that came from the text, there were these audio visual ways of teaching. The Panchatantra, Hitopadesha, and the Jataka tales, they have traveled from India to Persia and then to Greece and from there to the whole world. These stories were absolutely, they created a sensation. This is how Aesop's fables came about. Aesop was actually a slave in ancient Greece. We don't know where he came from, but he definitely brought these stories from India. The talking animals in Panchatantra were used to teach practical wisdom that imparted education in Niti Shastras or the ethical code of conduct. You will find more details of this in my book. Games were also used in education. For example, the game of snakes and ladders were used to teach values to children. Today, it's of course just numbers, on the board with snakes and ladders. But in ancient times, it was called by names like Moksha Patha and Gyan Chaupar. And basically, it taught the children that you would advance spiritually in life only if you cultivated virtues, and you would fall if you developed vices and bad habits and bad qualities. So this was very well conveyed through this game. And if a player got into a square representing a virtue like Daya or Jnana, then she would go up the ladder to a higher number. And if she entered a square which was labeled Krodha or Ahankara, then she would fall into a snake's mouth and go down to a lower number. So only after the British came, the moral aspect of the game began to be stripped away. And it just became the game that it is today, just a game of numbers and winning. So the games of chess and playing cards also originated in India and they were also used in education. They taught strategy to the students. So in fact, for princes, chess was very important. They learned strategy, war strategies via chess, playing cards as well.